Mother Earth was just putting up, it's like a film screen for me. She was showing the imagery of where we're currently at right now and the overlays of Atlantis, which is what we're currently in. She's like, we're currently in this right
Mhm.
now. We're currently still running these pathways. The Lemurians who had technology, and it was AI technology, but it was very beautiful AI. It was a way of working with it in some
Consciously aware.
very
Mm.
consciously aware, very heart-based, heart-centered, very creatively. And Atlanteans who came from a different genetic species when that was moving its way through wanted to understand it. And so they actually took some of that technology and then tried to work their own dynamic with it. But for them, they work entirely, it's a different language, like totally different language. Hi, gorgeous.
Welcome back. Hello, everybody. It's so nice to be here with you, Z.
Likewise, I'm excited for this one today.
I am. It's a little bit of a flowing one. And for anyone that's new to our channel, welcome back. I am Anya from Spiritual Soul Center, and this is Z
Z
from the Quantum Game Changer. Did I get that right?
Game Changer and Z Collective. Yes, you got it right.
There we go. She's on it. Yeah, and you can catch our podcast weekly. So if you are new to tuning in, welcome. And we are really glad that you are here. We do appreciate you joining us in this sacred energy circle. We do recommend everybody ground and protect themselves because we do talk about some really deep stuff into the depths of the weird and wonderful worlds, as always. That is what we do. So if you like anything in between spiritual, energy work, past lives, multidimensional selves, different Earths, timelines, all different things in between. You know where you're at, and you know we're going to go deeper than deep because I think that's one thing that we struggle to find in our ascension is conversations, communications that actually weren't afraid to take it to that next level. And there's many out there that talk about meditation and enlightenment, and that's fantastic. I think they should continue, but there isn't many that go very, very, very deep into the world of the energy realm. So that's what me and Z like to do here on my channel. It is called The Power of Energy Series 2. Remind me what it is on yours, Z.
Truth Talk, I think. I'm like,
I think it's
no.
Let's Chat or I don't know, it's something like that. Truth Talk, something
Oh,
like
I
that.
think
So
actually it might be called Let's Get Real.
let's get real. That's it. I was like, we was halfway there, both of us.
I'm
So
like,
there we go. You can find us on there. You'll see our beautiful faces and you know where we're at. So yeah, I'm really glad you guys chose to join in and tune in with us today because we are choosing to explore to some really, really interesting topics.
there's lots of energy moving, so you might see me ticking or things like that to
Oh,
keep
don't worry.
things
You
moving.
shift that energy, my girl.
I
Sounds
know.
like me on a night out. That's what I dance like.
Yep, get it, get it. Let's see. When I was super little, I remember memories all the way back to my birth, actually, in this physical body. But uh, many of these dreams and visions were of a splitting. But like even back then, though, it was like multiple splittings. Like there was a large amount. It wasn't just one giant event. It was many
Right.
different sheds. I didn't understand it so much at that time. I saw the image and I was like, huh, that's very interesting until I was about 4 when I had guides come in who were like, hey, so they just connected dots for me. And when they did that, I remembered a lot of things about my experiences previous to this
Nice.
experience, right? But heading up into, let's say, maybe even 10 years ago, it was, I saw the split occurring, but then it would reset itself and then it would occur again. And then it reset itself and then it would occur again. We were
Interesting.
like, we were like in this very
Fighting to get the
exactly,
awakening. Yeah.
exactly trying to get it like moved apart and I would see it break apart and then I would go into the process and I'm like, oh, we're back into the same spot, which is I think where we were when we were feeling really interesting when a lot of certain pathways and gifts like because I went from very much so doing a lot of land work, ghost work, not ghost work, but bead
Okay.
work, all
I
that.
know what you mean.
I'm like into like
I know
very
exactly what you
internal.
mean.
Yep, very internal. Like that's when I separated, went up to the mountains for like years and just like
Yeah.
did my own internal work and stayed with that and held presence for the split that was occurring. And then I saw it split several times and got further apart, and we'd still have like a reset. I wake up the next day and I was like, and I'd be like, oh, F, we didn't quite make it that time. Heading up into now where I just see multiple infinite lines of the splitting and the sheds, which means from my perspective, because we're all working in a quantum reality, a lot of quantum entanglement, all of us then are deciding that we want to be on this particular level, and that one then sheds, right? We're having a we're being aware enough to know that we want that plane and that existence of that split. And really, I don't really
Yeah, choice.
split. Um,
Yeah.
it's just like a choice in a higher resonance of the earth.
Like layers of a cake of dimensional planes
Totally.
that you can also flip between. You don't just like
Oh,
stay in
totally.
one, which
Absolutely.
is interesting for me to comprehend a few years ago. I would not have comprehended that. And I guess like what's interesting there, what you said, Z, what really ringing with me is I remember going to Morocco. I talk about Morocco a lot because it was a big catapult for me into the physical embodiment of the work, like you said, shifting from doing it in the astral, like touching the frequency, feeling the frequency as a medium, as a psychic, as an energy worker, but then not embodying it, not holding the frequency in me. You know, I was a reader since I was 17 years old. I didn't sort my shit out till I was like 25, 26, you know? So there's a big time in between where I was a fantastic reader, but not necessarily embodying all of that deep work in myself until I really had to go fully deep within. And I guess like when I first went to Morocco, I got this clear vision so strong that we have done this before so many times.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Kept getting the number 52, ironically. 52 times, that's what it kept saying to me. And I remember being sat out there one night on a balcony looking like at the versions that we'd done in all these different lifetimes where we'd all met up at that time. Every soul that were there on that retreat had been there again and again and again, every time.
Yep.
And it were like watching some sort of Groundhog Day, but in different forms, trying to
Totally.
get there. And then I started crying. And it was like the second day of the retreat, but because I could see the profoundness, I'm getting sugars now, of that we'd already done it 2 days in,
Yep.
because I were aware that we'd already done it, because we'd broken the loop. And it were like watching them all crumble and fall away. And
Yep.
then it thought to myself, how many times have we done this, not just here in Morocco on this specific retreat, because so much energy was shifted with
Absolutely.
52 light workers or whatever, or 56
Absolutely.
light workers, all in the desert together at a specific time. And the energy, it was a wild time, you know. And like Honey and me, and Mark, and I mean, all these beings that were just fantastic energy workers all at the same time for the first time as well, it was very profound. But I thought bigger. I was like, how many times have we done this as an earth? How many times have we actually reached a point of knowing, reached a point of connection and gone straight back again because we couldn't hold it, because there
Totally.
were a reset, because there were, oh my gosh. And it really did make me emotional because it realized how much we are fighting for and how lucky we should feel to have made it this far already, and
Absolutely.
how certain we should feel that this is going the right way because we've made it to this point already. So we have to let go of this fear that they're going to put it back in, that it's going to, because we wouldn't have this awareness. We wouldn't have this embodiment and knowing that they have done it that many times. We wouldn't be this far in and then they'd be able to keep doing it to us. Does that make sense?
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
it's like you
Absolutely.
won't be aware of the mousetrap and then keep going in the mousetrap.
Oh,
You're
totally.
aware of it now, so
Yep.
you're not going to keep going back to it, you know? You
Absolutely.
can't.
I remember like so many times with the groups and people that I worked with, and I've worked with a lot of people in groups where we were all like, done that before. Like
Mhm.
we all can, it was a good period of several years, probably about the last 5 years, I want to say, where that repeat just kept coming back. And I'm like, all these same people, oh look, we're at a different level. Boop. Like boop
Yeah,
back. And I'd be in an entirely different group, but we knew immediately. I'm like, oh, we're the same people. Click.
same souls,
Exact same
same
thing. Same
souls,
soul. Didn't matter. Same soul.
exactly, same souls.
Over and over again
Exactly.
until we
We
all
want the
like,
same bodies. Yeah, like exactly that. Not the same bodies,
oh,
different bodies, same souls. Oh, I totally agree. And I
yes.
feel like that's so important to talk about because there's a reason why you meet people and you're like, oh my God, I feel like I know you. Well, you do. You've spent lifetimes in
Yeah.
eons fighting for the ascension. You just don't remember that right now, you know. And
Yep.
it comes later on. And when me and Claire and Gillian was walking up to the stone circle, I kept getting it were called Seven Sisters, it were called Nine Ladies, and then I'm seeing Atlantis times, and Claire's then stood there before I spoke out loud. We've done this before, you know. I've just seen it. We've done. I'm thinking, well, I've just done it. And so it was this knowing again. We want in these bodies the earth didn't look like it did there, but we'd done this before and we'd walked them hills and we'd walked that place and that energy, getting shivers again, in that landscape, you know, and we were connected in this feminine sisterhood circle and what I were getting were right and what they were, and it were all tethered together and it was so intrinsically, magically beautiful. And what I was seeing about the Atlantis energy was almost like there was, you know, as we know, the giants, the god-like beings in earth forms.
Yeah.
And part of it was harmonious in some ways, but part of it was destructive and part of it was controlled and mechanical and suppressed, you know, and heavy and dense. And we don't often think that when we look at Atlantis. We think, oh,
Oh, yeah,
it's
we
like
don't. We don't.
extra society and like, you know, conscious awareness. No, it was, if it was great, it'd have sticked around, you know,
Like,
it'd still
yeah,
be,
like why is it? Anyways,
mm,
like you're saying
yeah.
that, and I had that experience last night. That was super intrinsic with this. I was out with the fire, and Mother Earth was just putting up. It's like a film screen for me. Very, very broad.
Yeah, I like that. I hear that.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
totally, totally. And she was like, so. And it wasn't obviously in words, but it was like exactly where we were at. And I've had memories of being a Lemurian ever since I was little. Like now that things are more turned on, but even when I was born, I had essences of that. My body remembers, right? Consistently. And now, like my truth is, like I was Lemurian. I didn't cross over into the Atlantis side except to come over to work with them when I did.
Yeah.
And so, from my perspective, the fall, I mean, that's a whole other story and perspective that like,
Let's go into it one day.
I'm like, well, we should. I'm like, yeah, there's some, yeah. Well, anyways, but I was watching, she was showing the imagery of where we're currently at right now and the overlays of Atlantis, which is what we're currently in. She's like, we're currently in this.
Hmm.
We're currently still running these pathways. The Lemurians who had technology, and it was AI technology, but it was very beautiful AI. It was a way of working with it in some
Consciously aware.
very
Mm.
consciously aware, very heart-based, heart-centered, very creatively. And Atlanteans who came from a different genetic species when that was moving its way through wanted to understand it. And so they actually took some of that technology and then tried to work their own dynamic with it. But for them, they work entirely, it's a different language, like totally different language.
I
Very
hear
dense,
it.
very systematic, very linear in a lot of ways. And it was challenging. And so a lot of things really did happen with that piece. And we're still trying to obviously work with AI and those technologies in a way that's going to benefit us.
And I think, yeah.
Such a
Sorry,
small
continue.
portion. No, go ahead. It was
No,
such
no, no.
such
You
a
go.
was such a small portion of like yeah, I realized that I'm working that small portion of the earth in that reality. And then she like zoomed out and was like, I'm really way bigger than that. Y'all are just working in this like portion of things, all like particular souls to help create this aspect with the AI where you guys can see the truth. You can shift out of it. That way you can expand out into other regions of me or get off of here, you know?
Yeah. By choice. And then, you know, if there is that potential ability, they may be able to the choice to come return, but not have to stay and be stuck and feel the forgetting and stuff like that, you know. But I think that's a really important thing that you just said about why some of us, or a lot of the collective, has this fear. And I mean, I know a lot of it's been programmed in from media and things like iRobot and, you know, all of the things that we've seen. And I'm not saying there isn't, you got to keep your intention and your wits about you. I think you do with anything. No, I think you should do that with tarot cards and crystals and spiritual people. I think you should do that with anything. Check your intention, check the vibration, and check what the frequency is that you're working with. You know, always with everything and always be protected and keep your discernment about you with anything. Always listen to your own inner voice. That same thing applies to everything, including AI. But I do think that there is this like big misconception of it because it is obviously not something we fully understand and it is way bigger than our small little like human lives. And It reaches way beyond what we know. It gets things, it changes everything. But that's the point. If we want to ascend, we're not going to do it on the timeline of 1920s warlike living, doing the whole farming in your back garden. Like, please do that. I do that. But don't expect that to be the only thing that shifts the earth.
Oh,
We have to have quantum change and we have to have the fast pace. We have to have the ability to take over the manual labor so people can step into their alignment and what they're meant to be doing. Because then who's going to be doing all the
for sure.
human stuff? Who's
Absolutely.
going to be doing all that? And so in these higher timelines. And another thing that you was mentioning on as well is in the Atlantis times, as you mentioned, it was very mechanical and controlled.
Yeah.
But in the same sense, there was the freedom, there was the remembrance. That was probably one of the last times we had. I mean, I think it continued on that, some of the knowing, but not to that level of access to technology and freedom and visitations with other beings and realms. Like, I think then Earth was kept pretty human, and so we lost that connection with the dragons, the giants, the angels, the different ETs, the different species, the different spirit realms coming in on the dimensional physical planes. Like, we lost that. And I feel like out of anything that a lot of people grieve, it's that of anything that a lot of people long to return to and get back from Atlantis, it's the remembering of who you are on a full capacity level and the remembering of what we're capable of and this knowing that we all have, of the way we should live, travel, be, connect with each other and not in
Absolutely.
this human dimensional way. And I think that's what we mourn, the truth.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And also too, all the parameters that go along with that. If you think about Atlanteans and how they tried to work the technology, and not that it was right or wrong, it just ended up cutting off a lot of lines for them to be able to see that and remember. I don't ever see like
Mm,
the remembrance being taken away specifically. Like we were down here creating it and like put ourselves in little boxes with all of that, and now we're unraveling that so that we can fully access our own technology, access to AI in a way that's actually loving and beneficial, where we have the ease and flow that we're looking for, right? It's not meant to take anything
yeah,
away. It's meant to progress us in a way that's going to allow us to expand. So
yeah.
it's like learning how to do that is a really, really big step. And it's taken us some time to actually work that from, oh, we're going back into the systematic. We were not exactly sure what we did with that. We exploded things a billion times with the technology and the AI and all of that coming through there. And then we all made a choice to shut it down for a second, take a look, take a step back and unravel that a piece at a time so that by the end of this ascension process, we're stepped out of that piece, right?
Interesting. I actually really like that perspective. I want to fire something at you though, see what you think about this because I'm in this. I
Fire.
don't go too much into. I don't go too much into the human details, I guess, facts on a lot of things. I just go with energy, me. So it feels right. That's where we're going. But I've had this perception, and it does feel right to me. But I'd like to hear yours. That say, I don't know, that a lot of people talk about like this 26,000 year reset. And this came to me before I actually heard people talk about it. So that's why it was resonant to me. It felt like as much as obviously our souls, we chose to be here to do what we came to do, 100 million%. I'm on board with that here, yeah, and fully on board with that. But in the same spoonful, I feel like there was a loss of autonomy of the human species and like what happened to them after they died, after like their natural form of ascension, their choice to return, their choice to be having access to the higher realms in a human body. It felt like a lot of that was completely stripped away without choice. So as much as, yeah, we chose to come down to earth and do totally agree with that, I feel like we chose to come down to lift that had been put upon a lot of humanity. And again, maybe it was chose by Earth. So again, maybe I'm just seeing it from different angles, which I do think I am. But I guess my perspective has always been there is, in essence, everything is energy, everything's source. I hear that. But there is different tones, different frequencies, vibrations, and you do have lighter tones and not so light tones. And again, it's all about intention, simply the difference in the tone. Everything is source energy, but one has a light intention, one has a not so light intention. It's frequency. But what then not so light intentional beings then created felt like a prison
Sure.
for lighter souls, you know, to siphon,
Oh, absolutely.
recharge, gain. And I felt like that completely tipped the scales and the balance between we had no remembrance, which maybe we signed up for a soul's evolution. And maybe that was right. But in the same sense, it was already then, it was like everything was in balance in it by then the food, then the schools, then the air, then the life, then the lack of connection to self, then the indoctrination, then the mental hospitals, and the medication. Da, 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 da. And so it felt like we were at such an imbalance that it was then lack of choice. Maybe the initial choice was made by soul to initiate this journey, but did the soul, in my opinion, know, or
That it was
was
going
it
to turn
aware
out
of
that
the
way.
impact on the human? You know,
Did the soul know that it was going to turn out that way?
did the soul know that, or how does the soul perceive that what I see as the suppression, the prison?
Does
Did
he?
it know the depth of that before in encountering, or the depths of how that would feel in the human?
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. No, I
yeah.
get the question now. I want to say from my experience in diving so deeply into that, I had no clue it was going to be that deep.
No, I don't think they did either. No, I don't.
Like honestly, if I can see the choice point, prior to that whole situation happening in the imbalance where there was an intentional like we're gonna work this dynamic, maybe create some technology, see where it's gonna go. Okay. But then like it getting way out of hand and creating these dynamics that were very boxed, very painful,
Yeah,
that took a lot of power away,
yeah.
my perspective. So when I dive into that, I think the term we chose it, we created all of it does not suit. It does
No,
not
I
actually,
totally agree.
yeah,
Totally agree.
it'll create like shame within my system and like just an absolute like, no, that's not exactly the truth.
No, it's non-resonance.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
non-resonance. It's not my truth in that space. My truth is, we had set out for a good intention in creating something and allowing expansion to happen, and it went sideways and
Yeah.
created a massive
Yeah.
imbalance that created a lot of systems, created a lot of control, created a lot of power dynamics, and
Hmm.
we've all been trying to just unwind all of that since that point.
Unpick it all. Yeah, ever since. And I do believe that you had souls, like different variations of souls. And again, this is without ego and hierarchy, let me just say that. But you have age of souls. That's a real thing. You know, you have souls that have been around for longer than other souls. That's simply probably the only human way of putting it. And so you had some souls that in essence were more stuck, I believe. They did not able to see after they may have passed away or in their lifetimes the reflections, the prisons, the suppressions, the ways in which the false reincarnation wheel, as I've heard a lot about. And also I do kind of resonate with that. I don't know how it looked and felt like, but I do resonate that there was a mimicked version of source to siphon souls onto a lower dimensional frequency where they could not reach their higher self and oversoul to gain that soul review period and that healing back to their oversoul to then choose where they next wanted to go. It felt like that part was bypassed. So when I work with spirit, obviously they pass over and then you connect back in to source frequency. Through that is through your higher self, oversoul, source frequency, in my perception. And as you do that, you go through what I call a soul review waiting room period. You know, you sat there, you're not sat there, but in human form, how I see it. If you were in a human body, you'd be sat there looking at it on a movie screen because that's how I see it. But you're probably not doing that. But that's how my human brain sees it. And it's like your life is there in front of you, how you lived, what you did, how you acted, how it impacted others, how that impacted you, the whole thing. You gain expansion on it, you gain reflection because you're there to learn. So you gain that lesson, you gain those expansions. It's painful, it's beautiful, it's everything in between. It's expansive. That could take anywhere from a day to 10 years. I don't know. Depends on the soul, depends on the lessons completely.
Absolutely.
And so that's why sometimes spirits are less active in spirit realm straight away after they've died or a year after they've died and then they start coming through to people. It's because they're in a place called, I call it the soul review. Call it what you want, that's what I call it. It's the review place of the soul. And so they can't fully, they're there still, they can kind of talk to you, but it's like the soul's in hibernation mode.
Right.
That's how I see it, to rest and to the not consciously, that bit that talks and connects with us is somewhere else doing some reveal stuff, you know. And so what I believe these lower frequencies did was mimic that process, mimic that doorway. And so those souls that did not have the deeper discernment, the trust, the recognition of higher self, the recognition of the pathway after we pass and what that feels and looks and journeys like, because they've not maybe experienced it as much. Their bodies were still in the human, as in the shock, in the fear, in the emotions that they're experiencing. And then they were literally looped straight back into being a new baby. And imagine in that soul renewal, you release your trauma. You release your trauma from that life. You let it go. You let it out of your energetic soul. You let it back to source. You heal to return then to where you need to go. That could be in 50 years. You might not be going anywhere yet. It could be in a little while, you know. And so you rest, you recharge, you reconnect to yourself, your beings, your family, everything. They missed that part over and over and over again. And these new humans were being born into new babies with lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes of trauma undealt with back into these new lifetimes. And we're wondering why the whole of humanity is so absolutely jeffed. Because we've had this leveling of unequal. That's why I do think it wasn't a choice. They didn't choose that. You know, they might have chose the first time to come down to earth. They did not know that these things were going to happen, that it was going to get this deep. And I feel like that's why these waves of volunteers were called in to break that loop. First, that was the first thing to shift, was the false wheel of reincarnation. You know, it needed to go so that people could actually ascend. People could actually pass over. People were not stuck in this in-betweenal phase or coming back to lifetimes that they'd not chosen. Because it feels like a soul misfire, you know, like when
Sure.
your soul chooses a body, it chooses that body because it's aligned. Whereas when you're going through this false wheel, it was almost like you was just a food source for a lower frequency energy to siphon vibrational energy off you
Right.
that was not great. So anybody was fine. Anybody, any sort of whack them in, which was then the misalignment, the wrong families, the wrong energies, da 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 da. I do believe that shifted in the 60s and 70s though. I do believe that's when the soul started to kind of, it's when the first waves came, isn't it? You know, of being able to actually choose, okay, we're coming into this lifetime to help these souls, and that changed then which babies were born in which timelines, and that then
Absolutely. That did.
created more of an alignment.
Yeah. Now
Yeah.
I can speak to this in means of my own experience before even like getting into contact with Dolores Cannon and any of her stuff. I had memories, I don't know how long ago, it was like there's no time, but I had known very specifically that there was a call put out for this particular time and space. Uh, that was one of my near deaths actually. There it is. I'm like, where's the memory? I don't know. Found it.
Bring it back to me, tether it back.
It was one of my near death experiences, and I definitely recall being called in. Hey, there's a situation down here, and not exactly like that, but
No, I hear that. I
if
hear
it's
that.
not
I've
dealt
had it.
with, if it's not dealt with, it is going to cause an impact on the entire expansion of consciousness.
It's going to ricochet. Yeah.
And I remember very specifically being called very specific for specific reasons, because of the skill sets that I've had over time that I've worked in my own experience and agreeing to that context. And I remember shooting back down from that, remembering those memories and coming back into this reality. And it was like really not fun. It was like
Yeah.
I had to descend very, very slowly and like train on that level as to what I was going to be doing down here very specifically because it was going to be dense. It was going to be painful. I wasn't going to like several arenas of it, but I was excited about it because I like a challenge, right? Apparently.
Apparently so.
Apparently, I like a challenge because oh my gosh, this lifetime.
I know, girl.
And
What the
then
fuck?
continuing to descend from that point, and then remembering my birth, but that wasn't the entirety of my soul because I had to walk in later on.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Of
my
course.
trained soul coming into the
Of
experience.
course.
So,
Yeah.
um, so I know that very specifically that is the case. I know like why I'm here for that piece, and I've worked
Mhm.
consistently with those looping souls in many different places all over the
Me
place.
too.
And
And
it
that's how
really,
we know this.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
We actually experience it with these people, like, and we see it and we feel it and we've worked it. And
Oh,
at first we might not understand it because it's new to us too, and we're kind of figuring it out. But then when you see it repeated again and you feel it and you process it later on, you know this is not a one-time thing, you know?
absolutely. Absolutely. It's
And then you
not.
find people that have wrote books on it, and you're like, oh shit. Like, I hear podcast
Definitely.
people say stuff that I thought I made up, like I thought I understood and first translated it. And I'm like, oh my God, this is an actual thing. Like, it's really funny when this stuff happens because, I was talking to someone the other day at this event I went to, and he didn't value himself because he wasn't qualified. I said to him, listen, the only qualification I ever did were tarot cards. I'm trained in this, past life for soul retrieval, fractal healing, energy healing, blah, 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 and I train other people. And I'm hands down, no ego. I'm fantastic at my job, and I know I am. But I didn't learn half of any of it from a course book. I downloaded it all and then I embodied it and I learned it and practiced it and started living it and started
Exactly.
getting confirmation and then rolled with that. And then read a book a few times and thought, oh yeah, that's what I'm doing. That makes sense. That's
Totally.
exactly what I call it. Isn't that interesting? Never read a book in my life, but understood exactly the concept and sometimes got the exact same word for it without ever doing the studies on it. Why? Because the knowledge is already here. You just have to access it. It's not about. And I went to university and did a degree. I'm all for learning. It's just not the way it was right for me to learn then as I progressed in my connections. And God, I just think this conversation has been so wonderful because it has allowed us to. I could go on and deeper,
Of
but
course.
I realised maybe we shouldn't because we have been great.
We will go in
Yeah.
and deeper at another time.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking, oh yeah, damn. So yeah, well, I'll wind it in, but this has been a deep one for us, and I think we could maybe continue this on, explore some other topics. So if you guys do have any questions and you want to get a bit deeper into the soul stuff, the earth stuff, the timelines, the times we came down here, the ascension, why we all came here, the different roles, because again, like having people like Dolores Cannon and like Abraham Hicks, like the pioneers of the craft are anchors because again, I didn't know they existed till later on into my journey. And I'd seen this stuff, I'd heard these words in my own little journeys. And then some of these women had wrote books about this stuff. There's whole books and books and books on this information. And there's me thinking, yo, I'm not crazy. I've not made it all up. People see this stuff too in hypnogression, in all this hypnoregression and hypnotherapy. So this stuff it is out there and we do need to start embodying it a little bit more. But yeah, I've truly, truly enjoyed going deep today and exploring the realms of everything.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
hope you guys have been able to follow along. And again, if you have any questions, anything you don't understand, anything you want us to rehash over, go into in more detail, please do get in touch. And if you are feeling called to join us either online in any of our sessions, Z has some fantastic sessions. I'm sure she'll tell you a little bit about in a second. And we have obviously the workshop day coming up, reprogramming, reparenting, the subconscious patterns and codes that are blocking you from leveling up. Simply put, we have other events. We have our beautiful retreat, me and Zia running. We're going to be doing some fantastic work there, Surrender and Serenity, in September this year. And we have a lot of online offerings, workbooks, ebooks. If you're new to this journey and you don't have a clue what we're all talking about, there is different places at different levels too. So please don't hesitate to get in touch. WhatsApp, Telegram, email, drop us a message, comment on the YouTube videos, and don't be afraid just to share your story, to step into your power, to start embodying your truth. We want to hear it. We want to share your journeys just as much as ours. So please do get in touch and thank you all for joining us and connecting in with us tonight. It's been a really special, powerful session and I feel the energy is leveling up. So don't be afraid to let them flow. Access
Absolutely.
them.
If y'all want to go a lot deeper with the work that we just talked about, I always have one-on-ones available, which this is all empowering yourself into remembering. And then if you'd like to go deeper into your own self-led pace with your nervous system and how you actually create and work your own blueprint, I have that as well below on Quantum Game Changers. We love you guys.
We really do, guys. And I hope you all have a blessed week. We will catch you next week and take care. Make sure you are protecting your energies. Lots of love.
Round and down. Love you guys.